Chris, let me get closer. Not that close. Chris, you're assuming an office that places a tremendous responsibility on you. This is the highest role in the association and carries with it the need for careful decisions and understanding. Chairing the AZA Board of Directors is not an easy task. Are you mindful of the honor and trust the members have bestowed upon you, and do you accept this challenge?
I do.
Chris, you are now installed as the 95th chair of the Board of Association of Zoos and Aquariums. Congratulations. And I want to present this make-believe invisible gavel to you. Good luck.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for your leadership and your service for AZA. We're all better off as a result of it. The first thing that I wanted to do when I came up here today was to point to the audience and thank my wife, Gail, for all her years of support of me. But I can't do that because she's not here. She's doing what she always does, which is pick up my slack. She's at home taking care of our family, and it occurred to me that we're all here because someone at home is picking up our slack. Someone's watching the kids or the house or the pets, or maybe they're just doing a little bit more at work that allows us to come to this fabulous meeting. So can we get a round of applause for all of those who support us to attend this? This is a tremendous honor for me to be up here speaking to you. As a matter of fact, when I was asked to serve on the board, I immediately said yes, and my team will tell you that that's a little bit out of character for me. I like to think that I'm a thoughtful, deliberate decision maker. I think they would just tell you that I'm slow. But when it comes to AZA and zoos and aquariums, I've always been all in. My first work experience was collecting data on mangrove and coral reef ecosystems in the Caribbean and learning about what aquariums were doing for conservation. I was all in right then. My first job, a big part of my first job was collecting first morning void samples from calitrichids. Now, for those of you who don't speak scientific jargon, first morning void from calitrichids is really just code for saying, I got up early in the morning to collect monkey pee. And let me tell you, when you're in your early 20s and a big part of your job description is monkey urine collector, it gives your friends a lot of ammo for jokes and nicknames, most of which can't be repeated on the stage. When you're in your early 20s and you're single and dating, you have to work extra hard to find that special someone who's willing to look past monkey urine collector and say, this guy has potential. So again, thank you, Gail. You know, as I evolved in my career, I did learn to ask more questions when Tammy Bettinger would come to me with an opportunity. But I've always been all in with this organization, and I know many of you have as well, because I know not all of you smell bad in line at the grocery store after work. Some of you do, and you know who you are. But many, many of you work nights, weekends, holidays. You miss family gatherings, you miss parties with friends, you have to take a phone call in the middle of the night or step away from a conversation, and you do it not because you're getting rich doing this, but because you have passion for what we do. You have passion for zoos and aquariums and all that we believe in. And I share that passion with you, and I respect that passion in you. I also have a sense of urgency. That's the other reason why I jumped at this opportunity, because I'm from Cleveland. And it's a little bit ironic that someone from Cleveland would become the chair of the board in 2019, because 50 years ago something happened that I'm sure you're all aware of. They talked about it this morning. In June of 1969, the Cuyahoga River caught on fire. And while I hope that if you think of Cleveland, you think about the fabulous zoo team that's there, I'm not that naive. I know you either think about our inept sports teams or the fact that the Cuyahoga River caught on fire. The reality is that used to be a fairly regular occurrence. Rivers in Philadelphia, Buffalo, Detroit, Chicago, all caught on fire. In Cleveland, we refer to that fire as the 1969 River Fire, because it wasn't the time the Cuyahoga caught on fire. It was actually the 12th time the Cuyahoga caught on fire. But that one time, something changed. The river didn't change. It actually wasn't a bad fire in relation to many of the other fires that had happened on the Cuyahoga. The thing that had changed was that public perception, public attitudes towards industry and economy and the environment had changed. But here's the thing that motivates me. Prior to that fire, the city of Cleveland had voted to allocate $100 million to clean up the Cuyahoga. Now, by today's standards, $100 million is about equivalent to $600 million. So imagine a city proactively allocating $600 million tax dollars to go towards an environmental cleanup. It's crazy. It wouldn't happen. It doesn't happen, okay? But Cleveland did it. In 1969, the federal government had only allocated $180 million to clean up all the rivers in the US. Cleveland was on the cutting edge. Cleveland was going to fix this problem. They weren't fast enough. One fire later sparked an environmental movement, pun intended. Because Cleveland went from being the 6th largest city in the US to being a punchline 50 years later. So I have a sense of urgency. I have a sense of urgency that my passion for this profession, that we don't become a relic, that we don't get passed up, that it doesn't change on us, because the world changes. I don't want to be irrelevant. And in the end, it doesn't matter if you try to control the world changes without you, changes over you, changes through you. So I have a sense of urgency, but not fear. And there's a difference. I don't have a sense of fear because of my belief in all of you, because I've been watching you. I mean, not like in a creepy way. But this meeting, it's like a family reunion, right? We get together, we talk, we laugh, we tell stories, we talk about our successes, we talk about our failures. And sure, maybe after 5 days, we've had about enough of each other and we're willing to go our separate ways and come back in 6 months. But we share our stories and we inspire each other. I'm inspired to hear that AZA Zoos and Aquariums are putting $231 million into conservation annually. I'm inspired to hear that we now have 24 SAFE programs and more in the pipeline, and all of those programs bring us together to conserve species. I'm inspired to watch all of you not be satisfied with the status quo. You push the envelope, because every time I leave this meeting, I go home and say, I want to be like that zoo. I want to be like that aquarium, because I hear what you do and it's inspiring. I'm inspired by the work that our committees are doing. I'm inspired by the Animal Population Management Committee, the APMC, because we needed a new acronym. The APMC, the artist formerly known as WCMC, is taking one of our institutions, the SSP, and revisioning it, changing it, looking at a different strategy, not just for the hell of it, but because it wasn't getting us exactly where we needed to be. They were brave enough to propose changes to get us where we need to be. I'm proud of the Aquatic Population Sustainability Committee, because for the first time, maybe in the history of this organization, we're putting the full weight of AZA and all of our member organizations into addressing aquatic sustainability. Can we do more captive breeding? Can we come up with better sustainable harvesting techniques that not only don't negatively impact populations in the wild, but maybe inspire communities to conserve entire ecosystems? That's not something that we talked about when I started in this career. I think it's exciting. And we didn't have these conversations, or at least we didn't act on them when I started. But maybe most importantly, out of everything that we've talked about, is something new. When I first started in this profession, the words conservation and psychology were never used in tandem. But now there's an entire research field looking at how do people make decisions about conservation? Why do they do the things that we can do? What can enable us to change their behavior? The field of conservation psychology belongs in zoos and aquariums. We should own this. Because no other conservation organization, none, has a front door like we do. 200 million guests annually. In this conference alone, there were sessions on empathy, on building conservation culture. We didn't talk about that squishy stuff when I first started in this profession. When I was in grad school, I was told to actively avoid things like emotion and anthropomorphism like the plague. We're supposed to deal in facts, right? But just watch the news. How far do facts get you now? It's emotion. People respond emotionally. Enrique Sala said yesterday that you can't get emotion, you can't experience nature through a screen. I believe it's because there's no emotion there. That's why AZA is tracking public opinion. When we talk to those constituents, what they tell us is that they want us to take excellent care of our animals and they want us to engage in conservation programs. Well, check and check, right? But the reality is they don't want facts. They're responding emotionally. They want that emotional connection. And that's what we're doing. That's why this flood of TV shows that we're seeing, the leadership that WCS showed, and now Columbus, San Diego, Georgia Aquarium, they're all putting out these TV shows, and they're powerful. They're powerful because we're doing something that we didn't used to do. We're showing what happens. They're showing the connection between all of you and the animals in our care and in the wild. We're showing that you have that connection. People love that. It's what inspired me to join this profession. Why wouldn't it inspire the public? It's also important because it's showing that conservation is not an exercise of the elite. Traditionally, that's what conservation has been, right? It's what rich kids got involved in because they have the financial capacity to do so. It's just an elite thing. That's the narrative. It's not the answer. The EPA, just this year, allowed for fish to be eaten out of the Cuyahoga. 50 years later. Okay. I tell you right now, I'm not sure that's clappable because it took 50 years, but I understand. I tell you right now, the people who are fishing out of the Cuyahoga to feed their families, they're not the elite. The people who go out into Lake Erie and fish their quota and put it in the freezer so they can feed their family all winter long like my dad did, they're not the elite. Now we can talk about why my dad thought that the rivers didn't actually empty in the lake and they thought that that was good to eat the fish from there, but that's a whole other story. We have fires in the Amazon, hurricanes pounding our coasts, droughts in the west, glaciers are melting. The UN announced 1 million species are in danger of extinction. These aren't elite problems. These are humanity's problems. I started in this profession because of a love for animals and the environment. I wanted to make the world a better place. A couple of decades later, this is what I know. The people who will change the world are not the elite. They're the people who come in our front gate. They are our guests. They come to our zoos and aquariums for many different reasons. And we need to grow who comes in our front gate. But they do come to us. And they come with emotion and they come with passion. And sometimes they do things that drive us absolutely crazy. But it's our connection to them and their connection to animals that can and will change the world. The public is asking for different things from zoos and aquariums right now. They want entertainment differently. We've responded. We've changed our guest experience model. We changed the way we think about revenue. They use technology now in ways that we couldn't have imagined 20 years ago. And we're adapting to that. And they require that we're doing conservation work. They expect that we're doing good. We've developed safe programs. We've developed animal care models. And we'll continue to grow them. We'll grow our commitment to animal care and welfare. We'll grow our commitment to conservation. This is not the same world that I started in. This is not the same profession. That's okay. We're adapting. We're changing. We have to give ourselves the space to acknowledge that we need to change without thinking that all the work we've done so far has been unproductive, that all the work that we've done so far isn't appreciated. The reality is we haven't solved species conservation problems yet. And we're going to need to continue to change until we do. I have an amazing team at Cleveland Metro Park Zoo. I love them. They do great work. But we can't change the world by ourselves. We're not big enough. We're not rich enough. There's not enough of us. I don't know that any of your organizations is. That's why we're part of AZA. We need you. My strategic plan does not mention any of you by name. Maybe it should, though. Because if we're going to secure a future for wildlife, it's going to be done as a partner with all of you. How we achieve our goals will depend on you. We all need each other. That's why AZA is important. That's why the growth of the SAFE programs are important. That's why new accreditation standards are important. It's why embracing emotion is important. It's why we can't be afraid to fail. Because we can change the world. So in the end, when I ask myself, why on earth am I willing to serve on the board and become the chair? Because let's be honest, Jim's the happiest person in the room right now. In the end, it's got very little to do with me. It has everything to do with you. Ladies and gentlemen, the world needs you. The environment needs you. Wildlife needs you. There will always be criticism. Take it as a compliment. You're important enough to be on their radar. But don't let the criticism drag you down. Listen to it, evaluate it, change where we can or where we need to. It's okay. But don't give up. And don't doubt whether aquariums and zoos matter. You can make a difference. The scary part is, we might be the only large-scale conservation movement that can. But I'm not afraid, because I believe in all of you. Together we can all change the world. I believe that. Let's all go do it together. Thank you.